What's going on, guys? Welcome into Mayflower Sports. This is We All Gamble NFL edition for Week 8. A ton of games on the card for this week. 0 teams on bye week, which means a ton of action on Sunday. Primetime games to go over, and some sides, totals, props, and everything else in between. Of course, I'm Andrew. Jake to my left, Noah to my right, and we're going to try and find some winners. Guys, I'll be honest. The props are going the best for me. Totals are going the best for me. Sides, I'm struggling. I'll be honest. I don't know about you guys, but trying to get back on track with those side plays.
Yeah, I'm getting my ass kicked, so it's been a rough 2 weeks. I was with the public heavy last week, so that didn't go well. We were 0 for 8 on anything that was over 70% bet on DraftKings, so this week might be doing a little bit of fading myself. You never want to get into that, but we're getting into that point in the NFL season where I can't remember who said it, but it's that point of the season where like you'll start to see a lot of like casual bettors drop off. The wins will stop going their way. The units will start getting out of hand, and it's time for them just to like give up. So
NBA starting.
NBA starting. Obviously, hockey started. We're kind of here watching while we're recording, but. Yeah, I just had an overall tough week. Came out even money on my own personal bets, but the podcast bets were tough.
How about you, Noah?
Basically the same. I mean, it's just been a bad week. I was just shocked to see the public money go. It's weird because like they always say, don't really care where the public money goes. Like just go with what you want to bet on, but. I was, again, also with the public heavy, and sometimes I just hate to see it because Vegas makes a lot of money for a reason. So, yeah, it was a tough week. There was just a lot of unpredictable losses. I think, to me, like the 49ers, even on, like, last night, just completely shocking me with their performance. Like, just a lot of games. Like, Detroit coming out and just laying an absolute egg on, like, Baltimore just coming out. Lamar's looking like one of the best QBs in the league right now, solidified for sure. So
that was like sharp bet of the week.
Ravens?
Yeah, that was like sharp bet of the week. Like if you were on the Ravens, like you did really well. Yeah, you did really well.
It's hard to blame anybody for being on the other side though. Like you know what I mean? Like just because they've been so successful.
You know me, I don't play too much into the public money, but going back after you sent the stats or whatever it was from last week to me, and it was like you definitely should have saw that some of those were going to be losers. Like, there's no way that the public favorites are just going to sweep every single week. And I think Vegas is finally like starting to catch up to us. Normally, you don't see like the outright winners like we did last week, but it was still kind of crazy to see that. I think it was like anything like over 70% last week, where the public was heavy on. Was 0 for 8. So
it's a good point about the outrights too, because like teasers wise, a lot of people had the Niners like linked to other teasers. So like. The fact that they didn't even win, like let alone cover the 6.5, was anyway. Regardless, the boys don't like seeing the casinos win. Is what we're trying to say.
Yeah,
yeah, it was tough.
And I think too now it's that point of the season where look for some of the teams that just have the better coaching. And I say that because we're kind of at the point of the year now where there's a lot of film on a lot of teams. Teams like, okay, for example, the Patriots beating the Bills last weekend. Like, we all know, there's a lot of people that would say Bill Belichick is on his way out, even though he quietly actually got an extension over the offseason. But one of the best coaches ever in football. Like, you can't deny that. And for him to come out, he had all the film he needed on the Bills, come out, beat the Bills like that. Like, really well-coached teams will start to figure it out more and they're going to be covering a lot of spreads. So look for just good coaching staffs at this point. I think that's one of those things. But anyways, let's get into it.
I was going to say, since you mentioned the Bills.
Good segue, Noah. Good segue.
Awesome segue. Awesome. We got Bucks versus Bills on the Thursday night. Bucks let me down pretty bad last week, so it is what it is. Bills also let me down pretty big last week, minus Stephon Diggs getting in the end zone. So two teams, I think, that were on losing ends last week. I think the Bills have been one of the more disappointing teams this season, just for the roster capabilities and the team that they have. I know they've battled a lot of injuries, but I had a debate with, 3 or 4 guys at work today that I think Josh Allen's overrated. I think, the 3 seasons previous versus the last 2 seasons are 2 different players. But it's not going to deter me from taking the Bills -3.5 first half. I think the Bills have something to prove going back home. The Bucs defense is stout, but I think Josh Allen, this is like one of those get right games. They need a win really bad, and they really need an offensive performance this week from Josh. So I'm just laying the 3.5, and that's pretty much it for me. I don't really have confidence in the Bills, so there's no like breakdown for this pick. It's just like this was something that I identified and liked in a game that isn't the best game this week.
Yeah, I'll go. I guess mine almost kind of follows in with Jake's kind of analysis there. I kind of like the over at 42. I know the unders have been kind of killing it in prime time, although last week we saw the over, but I like the over. Bills defense doesn't really do it for me. They seem to give up points to a lot of teams. They kind of almost play down to their opponents, and looking at it, the Bills should clean up in this game, but there's something weird at Baker in that offense. They have weapons. I like the over just because they will score a lot of points. It's hard for me to say the Bucs end up covering the game in full, but I could see it being pretty close. So maybe that's more of a cover play for some of you out there. But I like the over at 42. I think it's low.
There's a way we can both win. I'm on the first half under, so there's a way we can both win. Look, to me, with the Bills right now, it's at the point now. For me, I always thought they were a good bounce back team. Like they're a team that I wanted my money on after they lost outright. Wanted my money on after a poor performance from Josh Allen. And like you're debating your buddy at work saying he's overrated. And like that's the thing is like I feel like anything I want to do confidently right now as far as points or taking them to win, it's just hoping this is the week. Really, it's kind of like you said, like there's no real analysis. It's kind of like hoping it's. And I agree. I think the Bills will win, but I think that the only thing that the Bucs have going for them right now is that they're one of the number one red zone defenses. They forced a ton of field goals. I might look at field goal props for the Buffalo Bills actually on Thursday. But yeah, I mean, this is a team that scored a combined 10 points in the first half in the last 3 weeks. That's insane. So like whenever they get their shit together, it's been in the second half. The Bucs, they've actually done a decent job of limiting some teams. They've played teams like the Eagles, the Lions, the Vikings, teams that have respectable offenses, obviously talking about the Lions and the Eagles as well. Giving up like just around like 20 some points, like less than that even. So I think first half is how I'm going to look. First half under 21 or 22, I think it was.
Yeah. So I guess our bets kind of coincide because like, sucks to be Noah, but I'd take a 6-0 Bills first half win. I'm at the point now in the season where we can't be squad winning if it comes down to me losing. Like I'm looking out for number one, but I'm just trolling. Buddy.
But like that doesn't. You know what? Looking at the NFL this year, the first halves have been kind of bad. Like in every game, like even. Like, I can't remember what the score actually was at the half of the Eagles-Dolphins, but wasn't it kind of like, didn't they score more in the second half? Like the Eagles
it broke out in the second half, yeah.
There was a pick six, too, in the second half.
I just think teams, I don't know, defenses have been much better this year than they have been in the past couple of years, and I think it takes teams a little bit longer to get used to it. So I think there is a way we could all come out winning, but hey. You can't be on it all the time.
We can't be on it all the time. All right, so
three of us picking games.
We'll move into the second game here. Since I let us off, let's see what you got, Noah.
All right. First pick, I like Houston -3 against Carolina. Houston's looked really good this year. They're 3-3, yes, but they've beaten on teams like the Steelers. They won like 30-7, I'm pretty sure. And we all seen what the Steelers defense can do, especially against the Rams last week. So the offense is proven. They also beat, I think, the Jags. And then the only 3 losses have been like the Ravens. I was looking at them just before this game, but I can't remember. But 3 good teams they lost to.
Minus Atlanta. I will not say Atlanta's a good team.
That was a close game. That was 21-19.
Oh, they're a good team, but I refuse to say Atlanta's a good team. I hate them.
No, yeah, for sure. Okay, all right. Well, Jake's opinion aside on one team, they've lost to 2 good teams and 1 bad team. All jokes aside, though, Carolina sucks. Like they're 0-6. They don't have much really going for them. Bryce Young has struggled. I think -3 is a pretty easy line for Houston. I see Houston going into Carolina and handling business. So yeah, not much more to say on that. I think Texans are a much better team than what their record shows, and yeah, give me the Texans -3.
I'll go again just because me and Noah are on the same pick again this week. I also have Texas -3. I really didn't want to take this at all. Andrew sent me something today where 84% of the money, public money, is already on the Texans to start the week. It doesn't necessarily mean that the public's going to lose every week, but that's the third highest so far this week, with only the Eagles and Lions having a higher public money on. But this for me was like a game that was just like, don't read into it, just bet it. And if you lose, you lose. Like, Texans are the better team. Carolina's offense has really struggled this year. It's really just Adam Thielen. They have no run game whatsoever. Bryce Young's, probable for a turnover a game, more likely 2. So I'm just going to ride with the Texans coming off a bye, refreshed. I'm pretty sure they lost going into the bye week against Atlanta. So a week to recover, a week to get your mind right and come back and go into a place where it's a get right spot. So I'm with you on the -3. And I'm not going to let the public money deter me on that one.
Yeah, they actually beat the Saints going into the bye week.
Or the Saints or whatever it was.
Beat the Saints, but whatever. They didn't even beat them handedly, so we can almost count that as a loss.
Yeah.
I know that there's times to be worried about like flat spots and things like that, but with the Jacksonville Jags, whether it's been like their first game traveling to London or their first game back or playing a good defensive team, playing another team that can pass the ball really well, nothing seems to really be deterring this team right now. And they're playing the Steelers. I like the -2.5 on the Jags. The Steelers have been outgained in every single game they've played this year. They're 4-2. And anybody that's listened to us every week on the podcast knows maybe I'm not the biggest fan of them. I haven't faded them every week, though, and I haven't bet on them that much this season. But this was last week, the Steelers' 24-17 win over the Rams. The first downs were 19-17 in favor of the Rams. Rushing yards were 135-86 in favor of the Rams. Passing yards 219-214. Total yards 354-300. Sacks were tied. The only difference was one interception for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Or in favor of them. I just think that this is a team, and last week I was told by everybody that the Saints defense will make the Jags offense not look very good. They put up 30 plus on them. You know what I mean? I think this is a Jags team that, whether it's Ridley or Kirk or ETN with the pass and running game, I don't think teams like this team they're playing this week can match up against them. So I'll take the -2.5 on the Jags.
ETN's been quietly probably like the best running back this season, minus Christian McCaffrey. I think Swift's been really good, but it's been kind of spurtish. But across the season, ETN coming off the knee injury has been like really impressive. And I will honestly probably bet one of his props until the season's over, whether it's rushing, receiving, or touchdown. I think he's a guy that really makes this offense go. And once he's going, I think it really opens up stuff for Trevor Lawrence. And I think like you've been preaching this quite a bit, that you can only rely on your defense to keep you in so many games, especially when your quarterback's Kenny Pickett. So I actually really like that pick. That's the close spreads this week kind of scared me, and I looked at like alternative picks. That's the only reason I didn't take that. But that was one of like the first things that I saw, and I was like, I actually really like that.
I will say Deontay Johnson being back definitely looked all right for the Steelers, but George Pickens props. If anybody likes the Steelers, I think you should just take George Pickens props. Like, you guys know I love the props. Like, if anyone's interested in taking him, it's like what you said about the Panthers, and you guys are talking about the Panthers, how limited their offense is. You just take Thielen and you don't think about it, because sometimes you think to yourself, they're going to just cover. He's the only guy that's doing anything. It's the opposite. Like, he's the only guy catching something, so you just bet on him. Like, I can't see anybody confidently liking the Panthers without thinking that he's going to have a good game.
Yeah, exactly. I guess we'll just flow right into the next one. This week, I took a little bit of a different road. I got two of these picks, but I took Colts team total over the Saints. So the team total's 20.5. Originally, I like the over. I was going to take the over, and I decided, you know what? I saw what the Colts offense has been able to do since Gardner Minshew's come in. It's not the same offense with Anthony Richardson per se, but Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss both look pretty good. Michael Pittman's kind of starting to find his game a little bit. Josh Downs is looking really good too. So they have some weapons. I think you said earlier the Saints defense was, supposed to be hyped up against that Jags team, and they got a 30-burger hung on them. I think the Saints defense is very spotty. It's very hit or miss, and I just kind of like what I've seen out of the Colts lately. I think they've lost some games, but they've looked a lot more of like a complete offense with Gardner Minshew than Anthony Richardson. So instead of taking the total, I'm going to rely on the Colts to score me 21 points. And I think against a Saints team that struggled a lot this year offensively, that their defense could be out there quite a bit and eventually wear out, and Gardner just kind of do his thing and have Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor do their thing as well.
I like it. I like that one. And I saw a quote today saying that they're an over team with Minshew and more of an under team with Richardson behind center, just because of he's kind of like that free-flowing, like, fuck it quarterback, that he doesn't mind bombing it downfield. He might sacrifice 1 or 2 interceptions, but I like that pick. What about you, Noah?
No, I like it. The Colts are one of those teams, like last year I had a problem with betting on them because they couldn't tell what they were going to do, and they had sucked. But this year it's kind of like that same team. Like, anytime I see them in a game, I almost can't bet on it because I really just have no clue what I'm going to get. Ever.
We all have that team, literally, that just...
I just, they're bad luck to me, so I can't say it's great. I can't say it's not because it could go either way if I put money on it. But
what else do you have for us?
To get on my next pick, I have the Dolphins minus 9.5 against the Patriots. I know that's a big spread. Big spreads are scary, but I look at it like this. I look at it in two ways. I look at it as a get-right game for, Miami after just losing that close one kind of close, I guess, to the Eagles. But I see them trying to show out their offense again, putting up a big game against the Patriots. I also just see the Patriots getting a little overhyped after their win against the Bills. I think we've all kind of hit on the Bills just not really being that great of a team this year. So, yeah, I like the Dolphins minus 9.5. I think Tyreek hits most of his overs again, he just missed his over on yards this week, but I think they're going to hit his over on yards. I think Waddle will be back in full, hopefully. So, yeah, give me the Dolphins minus 9.5.
I like that. I like that one. Good spot for them. And last game, Belichick was able to contain them. I don't think this time he will be able to.
Well, they're a different team, too. I don't know if you've ever kind of seen the splits of, like, when Tom was there. Like, Tom was, like, abysmal in Miami, but, would absolutely roast them in New England. So if it just feels like one of those, like, kind of series between two divisional teams where whoever's home has the big advantage, regardless of, if one team's 0-6 and the other team's 6-0 or vice versa. Like, it's kind of whoever has the home field really seems to, like, dictate this matchup. Dolphins are at home. It's a bigger number, but I wouldn't be surprised if, the Patriots lost by 30.
I always find that so weird, man. Like, home and away, how a team can look like a bunch of different guys are wearing those uniforms, like at home versus away. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Obviously, weather can come into a factor.
And I think, too, like, it's Miami, right? Like, as much as, the players are locked in, you've played 6 or 7 weeks now, 6 weeks if you've had a bye. Like, maybe you're in Miami clubs? Friday. Yeah. You might not be out in the clubs, but maybe you're just out, team dinners, that sort of stuff. Enjoy the weather before you go back to Foxborough. It's just one of those places where distractions can kind of creep in, and I think Miami takes advantage of that a lot at home right now. So I like the pick. I like the pick a lot. Are you? Do you have a second one?
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to go with under 43.5 Eagles and Commanders. Think back to early October. I had the Commanders. That game was 34-31. Crazy high scoring. I don't think I'm going to see this Commanders team do what they did. Some teams get better as the season goes on. It seems like the offense has gotten worse for the Commanders as the season has gone on here. And last week for the Eagles, playing a team like the Dolphins, that although I don't think they have a great secondary, obviously we know what the Dolphins are capable of putting up offensively. So the game plan was a little bit different than what it usually was for the Eagles. Like, they didn't get that many touches on the ground. They threw the ball a ton. AJ Brown went off again, and Smith and Goddard and these guys. I just don't think that's necessary this week for the Eagles. I think this is a week where you see more dink and dunking, you see more of a run game, and for the Commanders, hopefully they can use their pass rush, make things a little bit difficult for Hurts, but they're going to try and run the ball as much as they can as well and keep the ball out of the Eagles' hands. So this is something I try and do a lot in the CFL and in the NFL, where I look towards one matchup where there's been either a bunch of points and the next meeting in the season go under, or vice versa. So, like I said, 34-31 in October 1st, and their first meeting of the season, and now we're seeing a total in the early 40s. The average person is going to look at this and say, well, why the hell would I not bet the over based on what happened in the first game? But the fact of the matter is every game is a new event. And to me, I see this one being a lot better defense, but a lot more of a run game. So, and also there's also that flat spot potential, right? Big win for the Eagles against the Dolphins. How do they come into this one against a Commanders team that's, plus 6.5 point underdogs? I just think this one's going to be a snooze fest.
There's a guy on NFL.com right now. They did like a season breakdown for each divisions, and basically like each panelist on NFL.com got a division, and he was like, he picked everybody's record, but game by game. So like what games they were going to win, what games they were going to lose. The guy that did the Eagles schedule is 7-0 right now.
Holy shit.
So he's picked every game right so far, which is kind of odd. He has the Eagles this week, so we'll see. But I just thought that was kind of funny that we have a guy that's been able to go 7-0 on records, like just wins. But in terms of like the actual game, I think you're completely right. I think the Eagles are going to try to do a much better job of managing this game, not having to worry about putting up 30 points. Like they know if they just keep the time of the possession, run the ball, and just kind of keep Washington's defense on the field, that's a recipe for success for the Eagles. And they haven't really used DeAndre Swift like they had for like week 2 and week 3 when he came in and had those big games. Is kind of production's kind of tapered off, which is worrying, because like that was a similar situation that happened with Miles Sanders, and I think that's part of the reason why A, he wanted to go, but B, they didn't want to pay him, is he didn't have any numbers to back up justifying what he wanted to get paid. So I'm kind of hoping they start to get DeAndre Swift back involved, because he's very dynamic and I think he can change the game quite a bit and just the pace of play. But if I was betting that game, I was looking at the under 2. I'm staying away from the 6.5. I think the Commanders and the Eagles are always a competitive game.
Hopefully that means an under.
We'll see. Yeah, so we'll go into the last one of our main slates, but kind of an odd one for me here. Didn't think I'd ever bet this team, but I'm going to take the Giants +3 versus the Jets. Giants are coming off a very important win, I'll say. Big game for them. They needed a win and they needed a performance. Darren Waller was finally involved, which was kind of exciting. Jalen Hyatt looked really good. Defense looked pretty good. So I think this is just a spot for me where both offenses are probably going to take a back seat to the defenses. I think this is definitely an under game if you want to take a total. But I just kind of like the Giants continuing to progress. I think they've had some tough games this year. We've talked a lot about their scheduling, playing some really good teams to start the year and getting blown out. I think, battle in New York, home field advantage doesn't really matter. You both play in the same stadium. Who's going to be able to produce the goods? And I think I just have a little bit more trust in that Giants offense than I do in the Jets offense. Obviously, the Jets are coming off a bye, but I just don't see a spot where they beat them by more than 3. So I think at worst case, I get a push.
Are you on the other side?
Yeah.
Noah's number 3 pick. Here we go.
I was, that's why my eyes lit up for a second, because I was like, really? I don't know. It's almost like everything you're saying about the Giants is what I think about the Jets in this game. I think the Jets defense is so much better than the Giants defense. I just don't really fully believe in the Giants defense. I think there's a couple good bright spots there, but I think it will come down to Daniel Jones' health too. Like he is slated to get into the.
I don't even want to see him. I'd rather see Tyrod Taylor.
But see, that's where I think you'd want to see Daniel Jones only because if they have the film on Tyrod, which they do now, I think the Jets and that they're just such a good defense that I think they can kind of overcome all of their. They've shown it against multiple good teams this year. I just like the value of it too. It's -3 for +100 right now for the Jets. I think the Jets have beaten up some good teams that they shouldn't have beat already, and Zach Wilson is starting to get a little bit of the confidence I think in him that he needs. Like, will he be a world beater? Will Zach Wilson beat the Giants? No, it's going to be a defensive game, and it will come down to which defense plays better, and it's going to come down to, I think, too, like, which defense is going to put up more points. Like, one of these defenses is probably going to have to score in order to win the game. Like, because it's going to be a brutal game. Like, will I even watch it? Probably not. But I just like the Jets. I like what they've done this year, and maybe that's just because I like them at the beginning of the year to win because of the Aaron Rodgers stuff, and obviously we've seen how that goes. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to know that we're head-to-head because I do like the Jets in this pick.
Yeah, I guess just to add on one other thing here is I know I said I'd rather Tyrod than Daniel, and you kind of flipped it the opposite way. I think the reason that I'd like to have Tyrod in the game is Tyrod's a game manager, which I think the Giants desperately need right now. You can't have Daniel Jones slinging the ball 30 to 40 times a game. You're not going to – their team isn't built to win that way. With Tyrod, you know you're probably only going to get 15 to 20 pass attempts a game. It's going to be really run heavy. It's going to be a lot of screen passes. Let Saquon go to work. I know against a Jets defensive line that's probably 1, 2, or 3 in the league, wherever you want to put them. Doesn't sound like the best recipe for the Giants to win, but I just kind of think if we get Tyrod again this week, it's one last week for him to show, hey, I'm still here. Try and win that starting job from Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones, is as much as I've kind of gone to bat for him to say, hey, like, this team sucks, it's not so much his fault. They've looked significantly better with Tyrod Taylor, and I think if you want to keep racking up those wins, I know you just paid Daniel Jones, but keep Tyrod in there, keep the game manager in there, keep the guy that's not going to turn the ball over, and try and win that time of possession battle. Keep your defense off the field, long, sustaining drives, and if you're scoring 3 points every trip down, I think you beat the Jets doing that. Like, I don't think you need to put up more than 21 points to beat the Jets at this point, but same goes for the Giants. You don't really need to put up more than 21 points to beat them.
God, why didn't you just lead off with all that? That was a much better sell the second time. I had to bring it out here. Yeah. Because that point.
That kills me. That kills me.
The point about because when he said the thing about Tyrod Taylor's really playing for, more money. Like, this is a moment for him to actually show, like, this is his Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like,
this
when
could
Jake
be a
said
Geno
one more
Smith.
point, it was more like, I need to get another one up on you.
It was
really
just,
quick.
I tried not to put the breakdown
to
too
come
much because
back.
I didn't think you were going to be on the game, right? And it's a shitty game, so I was like, I'm not going to talk about this too much. But I just think it's almost like a Geno Smith moment where, like, if you can take a team that's really not that good and you can kind of perform just well enough,
No arguing.
maybe you can win a starting job next year. But I could easily see the Jets go in there, beat them 27-7, and I eat my words, right?
But yeah, like, I don't know. That's the thing. We're talking about a game that probably neither of us are gonna really watch. It's gonna be more that side game that's like, what's the score? Somebody be sucking. But, like, I don't know. It could go either way. I just like the value, I think, more when I saw it at +100 for -3, because it's like, this game will probably be a field goal game. Field goal props are probably going to be the move, actually.
Yeah.
Over 3.5
It's always tough
field
to
goals.
bet those early in the week because we don't know what the numbers are going to be. I was looking for stuff like that this week because of how bad I got beat up last week. And I was like, nothing was really out there yet. So it was like, I was defaulting to, like, games like this or team totals.
Yeah.
And the injuries too, man. It's like, because if one guy is injured for a team, they won't post props for everybody else. Right. You know what I mean? Because like if one guy's injured and this guy's number could be 20 yards higher, right? Like if, for example, if Waddle's not in, then the third ranked guy or Tyreek's going to be higher. You know what I mean? Because there's less. So guys, my third one was going to be the primetime game for Sunday, and I'm not trying to force another pick right now. So is it cool we go right into that one?
Yeah. I just want to add to that 76% of the public money is on the Jets. Just want to throw that
Hey, you
in
were the
there.
one that didn't care about it.
Hey, Stu Feiner. I was
Hey.
watching Stu Feiner last week, and this guy gave me the preemptive warning that this is the point of the season where you just start fading the public. I don't trust the public money ever. I don't care about it. But after the week I had last
is
week
the
on
time
the
you do
show,
it.
this is his time of the year too. This is where like Stu, like I know for the people that watch Barstool, you know, like Stu Feiner is a character, but like in that character, there actually is like really good like tidbits of betting advice.
Of course, yeah.
And every year on Barstool Advisors, as soon as it hits October, he's the guy that's like start fading the public now.
All right, get me off this.
Most sharp bettors I know are like 50% going into this year or like worse.
Yeah.
But they're not worried.
Put me on.
They're not panicked.
Put me on Cincinnati plus 5.5.
He's changing. He's on the Bengals. Give him the Bengals.
Give me Bengals plus 5.5 against the Niners. Only because this is when I'm gonna go super quick. This is when the Bengals start to turn around the season every year. Every single time, this is when the Bengals turn around. Last 3 years, they started sucking. They were like, the Bengals are done. Bengals are done. They start turning around here. Will they win against the 49ers? I don't know. Just like plus 5.5. There we go. Cincinnati plus 5.5. Scratch the Jets.
All right, let's go into the Sunday nighter here, Andrew.
I just like the over. I mean, I don't care who's in that quarterback for the Bears. Their offense has looked improved. Run game and passing game. Look at the numbers they put up. 30 against the Raiders. Kind of a stinker against the Vikings, but 40 against the Commanders. 28 against the Broncos. I know this isn't like against great teams by any means, but they're putting up numbers. And then there's been games where they've played tough teams where they haven't looked great, but then they go ahead and play mediocre teams or bottom 5 teams. And guess who they get to play this week? The Chargers. You know, they're bottom 5 in passing yards allowed. Bottom, I think 8 or 9 in rushing yards allowed, but they're bottom 2 or 3 in yards per catch allowed. This is a Vikings team that makes everybody else look good. They make everybody else look like a highlight reel. If you're someone that looks at props, you could probably just take guys playing the Chargers every week and have an awesome week. I mean, Travis Kelce went over his number last week against the Chargers in the first half by 40 yards. Like, that's insane to me. You know what I mean? If you're playing the Chargers, anyway, so I like over 46.5 here. If it ain't broke, don't fix it with these Chargers games. And the fact of the matter is, I have no idea what you guys are on with this one, but you'd think this could be a spot for the Chargers. You'd think this could be a spot where they could get going. But does anybody trust the Chargers right now to lay points, let alone win games in certain situations like this? They might win this game against the Bears, but not by double digits, in my opinion. So I would rather just take the over. I think both teams are going to get in the end zone. Both teams are going to make some big plays. I wouldn't be shocked to see a turnover or two. I think this is a primetime game that I look forward to watching because I'm betting the over on. So I'm happy to not bet an under.
I actually had the over locked in and changed it. The run that the primetime unders have been on have been making it hard to bet the overs, but I think if there was a primetime over that you were going to bet this week, this would be it. I instead actually went with Bears team total over 16.5. Everything that you said, I agree with. Their offense looks much improved. They've been able to do things against mediocre or bottom feeder defenses in the league. I forget the fella's name. That's the backup quarterback. I honestly can't remember.
It's like
right?
Tyson Badgett or something like. I don't even know how to. Yeah.
Anyways,
Call him Tyson. His
whatever
name is
is
Tyson.
whatever it is, he's not that much of a different quarterback than Justin Fields is. I think obviously his arm's not as good. He's not as accurate. He's probably a little bit of a downgrade, but they don't have to change the playbook too much for him, which is what I've liked so far. So I think this is a Chargers defense. Everything you said, I agree with. That's just lackluster. And one thing that I kind of picked up on during the Chiefs Chargers game that I can't remember who was broadcasting the game and who was in the booth. For some reason, I want to say it was Romo, but I think Romo does Monday night, so I could be wrong. I can't remember who it was, but they were talking. They had a bunch of clips stacked together of how off the DBs play from the wide receivers this year of the opposing team. Like everything's kind of like a laxed coverage, zone up, just don't get beat over the top. But they've been giving up these weird, like medium chunk plays from like 10 to 15 yards where teams have just been able to march the field on them doing that instead. So I think that just kind of fits perfectly with the Bears offense. So give me 2 touchdowns and a field goal against a Chargers defense that really sucks. And I think that's really possible.
Yeah, I like everything you guys said. I truly just wish there was a prop to bet on Brandon Staley making a boneheaded time management play because I would hammer that every single week. There's no real prop bets out, which sucks because I think to go into what Andrew was saying, like I like Keenan Allen to hit a lot of his overs this week. Guy's a machine. He doesn't get talked about enough. Just watching him even last week against Kansas City, like he was playing out of his mind too there, and like I just think against this Bears team they will get a lot of targets, but since there's no props out and I can't really lock anything in, I think it almost goes into what everybody's saying here. Give me the Bears to actually cover at 8.5 overall in the game. Just basically based on everything you guys are saying, right? The Chargers seem to just play down to their opponents, but they don't seem to like to win games handedly if they do. Brandon Staley always makes a bad watch at the half. I wouldn't be shocked. They have a chance to get a field goal or something, and then there's just a bad clock management play that just keeps it close, and that is what ends up having the cover for the Bears. So since there's no prop bets, give me the Bears to cover, but I like Keenan Allen props when they come out if it's not like 11 or 12 receptions or something like that.
I know we've talked quite a bit, so you can give your 2 cents, but more curious to see what you have to say. I've also been a proponent this year of Justin Herbert's a little overrated.
Just thinking about our conversation.
I think you could put him and Josh Allen kind of in like the same bucket. Like gunslingers force the ball to their guys, untimely turnovers. When the game's at its biggest, they usually shrink unless Josh Allen had that playoff run. But we'll say over the last 2 years, like what do you think of Justin Herbert? Because I think you could kind of class him with Josh Allen, but you also have Andrew's point, which he likes to make a lot, is like he has zero trust in his defense, so he almost feels like he has to play Superman to give them any sort of chance of winning, which I do agree with, but I agree with it to kind of like a certain extent where your mindset is kind of getting in the way of the team.
I think my biggest problem with the Chargers is honestly just the overall coaching staff of the team and Brandon Staley just always making a bad decision. Like
it's true.
He's just always making the wrong call. And it would be okay if it was once, twice, a couple times, but we've seen it multiple times throughout playoff runs too, in close games, making boneheaded calls where it's like you can't, he's almost putting Justin Herbert in bad positions sometimes. Now, I think there is that same category you could put him in with Josh Allen because they're both the same type of gunslinger. Like he is going out there. Defense hasn't necessarily always been solidified there. I mean, Khalil Mack's always been a monster, but it's never something you can fully count on. And I think too, like they have Austin Eckler. He's a touchdown machine, but there's something inconsistent about their offense as a total. So I think Justin Herbert's problem is more on just overall coaching than it is just himself as a quarterback. But I think it's not unjustified to put him in the same type of category as Josh Allen. I just think I have higher hopes or expectations going forward for Justin Herbert than I do Josh, because I think we've now seen like Josh clearly just is a turnover machine, and just he has the weapons and the team and the defense around him, and every year he goes into this hype train of the Bills are going to be a top 3 team, but they just always seem to fall short, more end up around a 6th, 7th best team in the NFL, where the Chargers go in and everyone's like, well, they have a weird division, although the Chiefs are in it, but they should always finish second. Mm-hmm. That means a playoff spot most likely, but they're always like a wild card playoff spot. And like they get into those positions where they get into wild card games and then they lose them close because there's bad play calling. So It's like, how do I really fully say like Justin Herbert is this problem when it's like clearly he's their guy going forward, but I think this is Brandon Staley's last year if they don't win a playoff game for sure.
I think I'll die on the hill that if you switch those guys' teams right now, Herbert benefits the Bills more than Josh Allen benefits the Chargers. Do you disagree with that? Or it sounds.
I honestly think they're.
Or you think they're the same?
I think they're uber similar. Like I'm not saying like there wouldn't be an increase here, a decrease there for whoever, but I just from what I've seen as of late, to me they both they feel like the same person.
Yeah, give me Justin Herbert with a different coach next year. and I'll see that like then I'll be like I can solidify that more because I think you're on to something, but it's like there's still that X factor. Because I think Sean McDermott is a much better coach than Brandon Staley, and
But,
like solidified that.
But like so you're an Eagles fan. They're playing the Dolphins on the weekend, right? So if you wake up as an Eagles fan, you're playing the Dolphins. You're like, damn, my team probably has to score 27 to 30 points to win this game, right? That's how Justin Herbert feels every Sunday.
Yeah,
Every Sunday he feels that way.
I guess, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we talk about certain guys like Zach Wilson and Josh Dobbs and like other guys that can actually potentially maybe Josh Dobbs is a bad example because his team's defense isn't that great either. But even Mac Jones, like they don't have that. Like literally Herbert every single game if he's gonna take his team. Doesn't matter who they're playing. The Eagles played the Dolphins, but these guys, they make everyone look like the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Their defense is crazy. But what do you guys think about the Monday night game?
I guess I'll lead us off here. This game, very weird to me. We got Raiders-Lions on a Monday night. If the Lions weren't good this year, this would be in contention for like the worst Monday night game in a very long time. Luckily, the Lions are pretty good. Obviously, they got beat down last week, but like we said, that was kind of a sharp spot. I actually completely stayed off the game. There's no number attached to this yet, but I'm definitely going to take Jared Goff over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think last week was an anomaly where the Ravens came out ready to play. The Lions didn't, so they got absolutely beat down on. I think this is a get-right spot at home. Jared Goff is starting to turn into a dome quarterback, which is funny to say. Guy can't really play outside all that well, so get me Jared Goff at home over 1.5 touchdowns. Raiders defense is You got Max Crosby, and that's really it. Lions O-line's actually much improved this year. They've been keeping Jared Goff upright. David Montgomery's looked like one of the signings of the offseason. We haven't got to see Jahmyr Gibbs too much up until last week where he finally kind of showed his worth. So I think this is just a nice spot for Goff to rebound, the Lions to rebound, but not comfortable laying the number. So I'll take the most quote-unquote surefire bet I could find, and that's Goff to score over 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, this is another one where I just don't really know where to go. I mean, I was on Detroit over the weekend at +3, sucked obviously. You could make the argument that this is a get back game after a terrible loss for a team that's kind of iffy with the Raiders, and Detroit's offense is good and should put up a lot of points, but I don't really have a lot for it. There's no props out, as Jake was just saying, but for some reason I like Laporta for receptions. He's shown a lot the last couple weeks.
That number's been usually 3.5 or 4.5. So I think at this point in the season it'll probably be 4.5. So I would lay my money on that being 4.5.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And that's even sketchy to me too. If it's 3.5, I'll probably be hammering at 4.5. It's iffy, but that's.
I love when you say that. I'll probably be hammering it. Let's go.
But because it's just such a weird line too, right? Because 4.5 to 3.5 for a tight end is it's a big change.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird game. Just everything Jake was saying, I can't lay a number on it because they could end up scoring a lot because Detroit's going to score, but I don't like the Raiders. They're too inconsistent for me week to week, so I'll give me Laporta on receptions. If it's 4.5, I'll probably still take it just because I liked how he's played, and I think Jared Goff's getting comfortable with him as a safety valve, so give me Laporta.
I'm just fading the Raiders. They're a team that... you're talking about this time of year where we talked more about sharp public than we ever really have, and popular bets. This is the time of year where you figure out who you want to fade and you just fade them. I know someone that just says fade the dead, and it's pretty early to call a team dead. But the difference is you've got two teams in quote unquote get right spots. One team just played one of the best teams in the league, and one team just played the Bears. That's the analysis. You know what I mean? And I understand we're asking a team to win by a decent margin here. It's a primetime game, but the Lions just have way too many things they can throw at you versus the Raiders. Every single time I look at props, I look at one or two guys maybe. And that's a problem because for the Lions, we could literally do a 25-minute show talking about just prop bets for the Lions. And if that's, you know what I mean? Because of that, I just feel like this is a game they respond in big time. And we saw what a young, inexperienced quarterback was able to do against the Raiders last week. What's a vet that's underrated, under talked about, with a great group of around him going to do after a tough loss? And I think it's going to be win by a considerable amount. So
yeah, I honestly, just before we get out of here, I was looking at the team total. The team total was 27.5. I was like, definitely feasible, but I was kind of more along the lines of, I have 2 team totals this week. That would definitely be the biggest one. Don't want to go into Monday night having to, bear the Lions score 28 points and knowing how the over-unders have gone for prime time. But I think you hit the nail on the head where, like, the Lions legitimately have so many guys at every position that, like, they could any given week put up 30, like a 30 burger, and the Ravens or the Raiders just aren't it this year. Jimmy G hasn't worked out. The only bright spot that I would really say that I have for that team is Jacoby Myers looks like a player. Obviously, him with Mac Jones, I think he didn't get to use his full abilities, but Jimmy can throw the ball a little bit better, but he's looked pretty decent. But you're right, like, this should just be a game where the Lions just pound them and pound them pretty handedly.
Mm-hmm. I just can't see the Raiders competing. I heard they're not happy with the coach. When the players are coming out and saying bad things about the coach publicly, it's never a good thing. Yeah. Like you were talking about Staley, that guy's a bonehead. I don't know how he's even around still.
Yeah.
So
Josh McDaniels has made some stupid decisions this year too, in close games, right? Yeah. I think for hot seats in the NFL right now, like, it would have to be Josh McDaniels and Brandon Staley for sure. Like, you can bet on who would get fired first. I don't know what the odds would be. I don't look at stuff like that, but I would say those two would be like 2 of the top 3 or 4 easy.
And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just going to say, it goes into what I was saying at the very beginning of this podcast, where look for the better coach teams to start putting up good games now. Like, like any given Sunday is what people say, and I was saying it before we even started recording, but that's because of coaching staffs a lot of the time. Like, that's why I like the Dolphins. Like, Mike McDaniel's actually been a great coach. That's why the Patriots won last week. They got Bill Belichick against Josh Allen. He's seen him enough now. He knows what's going on, I think the coaching staff for Detroit is much better than what they got going on in the Raiders. So, yeah, I agree.
And I was just going to say, like, it seems like a lot of people say, like, for that bet you were talking about, like, first coach fired, it's like the worst teams. You know what I mean? Like, typically in NBA, NHL, NFL, like, it's like a coach from the bad teams. A lot of the guys, the coaches for the quote-unquote bad teams in the NFL, I think they're secured. Like, they're just, like, a part of the rebuild. They're in a situation with these young quarterbacks. Like, look at most of the bad teams in the NFL. They have, like, really young rookie quarterbacks, right? You got to give those coaches a few years before you let them go. You know what I mean? You can't just fire a guy 1 or 2 years into it with a young quarterback, whereas with some guys that are leading teams like the Chargers and the Raiders too, like, it's just like, it's time to get a new fresh face. We can't waste these guys' prime years, right? Like, Herbert isn't a freshman anymore, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think too, specifically with the Raiders, is if they're going to be bad, you're probably going to draft a QB. You're probably going to want a coach and a new QB together, not Josh McDaniels, who clearly hasn't been it, and a new quarterback and him just kind of take him off the rails. But I think this was an interesting episode. I think I can only speak for myself, is definitely did a little bit of maneuvering around trying not to pick sides this week. Hopefully it's a bounce back week. I can't believe that, like, we spent this much time talking about Publix versus sharp money, where I'm somebody that doesn't necessarily believe in that. After 2 weeks, can't really say that I don't believe in it anymore, but I know the last couple weeks we haven't run through the slate super quick, so just a quick recap is I got Bills -3.5 first half, Colts over 20.5 team total, Giants +3, Texans -3, Bears over 16.5 team total, and Jared Goff over 1.5 TDs. And I will say, for that Goff number, that's probably going to be a little chalky. It'll probably be like, I'd say anywhere from like -130 to -160, but I'm still willing to lay the juice on that to secure a winner.
And for me, for the Thursday night, I had over 42 for the Bills Bucks. Then I had Houston -3 against Carolina. Then give me the Dolphins -9.5 against the Patriots. Something I flipped to last second. It was something else I had going in, but +5.5 for the Bengals. And then I have the Bears, +8.5 against the Chargers. And then I'm probably just going to take Laporta prop picks for the Monday night or whatever those end up being.
I've got under in the first half, Buccaneers and Bills, Jags -2.5, comfortable with the -3, but try and get that 2.5 if you can find it. We are taking the under 43.5, Commanders Eagles. I got the over in the Bears and Chargers game, over 46.5. And we're laying it. If I'm playing, I'm laying with the Lions Monday Night Football.
All right, boys. Solid week 8. Just a reminder there, you can find us on YouTube at Mayflower Sports, Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. Please make sure you check that out. Leave some comments. Let us know what you've made of our season so far, some of the picks that you like moving forward, all of that good stuff. We're at Instagram, Mayflower Sports, Twitter, Sports Mayflower. We sent an email or a tweet to Twitter to ask if we can get Mayflower Sports since it's been inactive since like 2016. Still have yet to hear back, but hopefully we get that switch soon. But from the We All Gamble podcast presented by Mayflower Sports, I'm Jacob, Andrew, Noah. It was a pleasure being with you guys this week, and let's cash some winners.